Session today then. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the fifth meetup that we are doing it on the basis of or from the chapter Thiruvananthapuram. And there are a few things that I need to mention before we start our meetup is, I think the first thing is irrelevant now because until and unless I'll not make you presenter, you can't do anything. Or you can ask the question or you can show yourself in the video. But if you have any question, just mention your name in the chat, or you can ask the question in the chat at any point of time. We'll try to resolve all your queries at the same time itself. I'll try to make everyone as a presenter mode so that we can have a few pictures clicked in between the session. And it's a mini meetup, so it's a 1 hour session. We are not going to take a lot of your time, but hopefully you will be able to learn a few tricks related to batch processing in Mule 4. Yes, there is no need of writing your name and email ID in the chat because attendance is now marked as soon as you join this meetup. You are checked in automatically by BV. And obviously you have to provide your feedback. That is very important for us. Like, how was the session? How was the speaker? Do you want any more topics that needs to be included in future events? All such information you can provide in the feedback, and on the basis of that, we are going to take care of the topics for the future event. Okay, so this is our fifth meetup for Thiruvananthapuram batch. Hopefully, once COVID will be over, we'll be able to host a face-to-face meetup soon. I am looking forward to it. Yeah, so as a community, it is our responsibility to share the knowledge, and as soon as so that any new learners who are new in the Mule, they can learn a lot from these meetups, as well as the few information related to community. So we have various chapters in India, across the world as well, and you can say that that is some positive that Corona has given us, that at any point of time you can join according to your own time zone. You can join any meetup across the world and learn as to go. Okay, so that is the whole sole agenda for that we are organizing as a community. My name is Anurag Kumar Dwivedi, and I am responsible for hosting all the meetups related to Thiruvananthapuram chapter. I'm currently working in Apicero as a senior consultant. And a few things about speaker. Our speaker today is Chetan. Chetan is having around 2 years of experience in the software field and already a very good or well-known name in the Mulesoft community. He will be presenting basically he will be presenting few information, or the topic will be batch processing in Mule 4. Okay, so that's it from my side. Chetan, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Anurag. Hi, everyone. So as Anurag already told about me, I'm working as a senior software engineer in Apicero, and I'm responsible for integration solutioning. And along with that, I worked on connector development also. So that's a brief intro about me. So I'm looking forward to this engagement. Let's see how it goes. Thanks, Anurag.
Yeah, so Chetan, you can start presenting from your screen if possible.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Good, Chetan. We can see it. I can see it actually.
Okay, so let's get started. So our today's point of discussion will be the batch processing in Mule 4. So we'll discuss about what is the significance of having batch processing, and where we should, at what point of time or deciding about solutioning, we should go for batch processing. So when we say batch processing, the first question comes into our mind is what exactly batch processing is. We know about batch, like batch is nothing but a group, and a group of particular records, or it can be anything, but it more is relevant to the group. But when we combine these two words, batch processing, like doing some operations over that group of records. So these are some definitions which we can find over the internet, like it requires minimum interaction of the user, because it in the second point you can see it says it generally used to deal with the high volume of data. We generally use batch processing when we are want to process a large volume of data. When we say high volume of data, it can be um, thousands of records, or it can be million, or more than that. So we opt for batch processing when there is minimal user interaction is required, or it can be a scheduler based also. Like we are doing a cron job every day, like a scheduler is triggered based upon the cron expression or whatever we have given, and no user is needed to uh, fire that processing. So this is all about what our batch processing exactly is. Dealing with the high volume of data and with the minimum or no user interaction. The next question comes into our mind is when and why batch processing. So we generally use batch processing when we want to synchronize the data, like synchronization of data between two different systems. Let's say I have a Salesforce system, I have a ServiceNow system, and I want to synchronize some data, like all those tickets which are getting generated in this ServiceNow. I want to synchronize all of them once a day. So I can opt for batch processing, and at the end of the day, I can sync all the records which got generated in the ServiceNow. We already well known about the ETL processing or ELT processing. So for ETL processing also, we can make use of batch processing. Mule is generally not built for ETL, but we also the Mule is enhancing its capability, so we can do some ETL jobs with it also. So as I mentioned about a scenario where we are dealing with synchronization of data between two different systems, or it can be two different legacy systems. So let's talk about what Mule has provided us to deal with batch processing. So when I go to my palette in the core module, I can see these three connectors or processors are provided by Mule in order to implement batch processing. So these include a batch job, a batch step, and a batch aggregator. So moving forward, we will discuss more about this, like what these things are, and what are the parameters which are responsible for uh, getting best out of a batch process. So this is how a batch process looks like in Mule 4. We do have a batch job scope, which consists of multiple batch steps, and the batch steps can consist batch aggregator also. So before moving forward, talking about what are the phases, let's go to our studio and see how exactly a batch scope looks like in the Mule. So in my core module, I can see for batch, I have these three processors. So batch job is the scope here, and we have batch step, which we can include in a batch job, and the aggregators, which can be used in the aggregator part of the batch step. So batch job is more about the whole scope. Whatever we have in the batch job is will be contributing to the batch processing, and each batch step, we can have multiple batch step in a batch job. So each batch step can have a processor and an aggregator part. So let's talk about the phases. We will first go with the theoretical part, like what exactly batch processing is in Mule 4. Then we will move forward to have some practicals on it. So when we say batch processing phases, it generally deals with three steps, which is a loading and dispatch, process phase, and on complete phase. So loading and dispatch, as its name says, we are loading the data into the batch job. So let's say batch job always entertains a collection, or you can say array of records. So as soon as it gets that array, based upon the parameters, it will load that data and dispatch the data into the queues. So behind the scenes, it will use some queues, and it will generate a batch job instance ID to keep track of your batch job. So we can easily see a persistent queue is being generated by Mule at the back end, which is having a prefix of BSQ. We will see how and where it is created in our local, but if you want to see when you are deploying it to Cloud Hub, you can just directly see in your queues, like a queue is being created with its size, and it will have a prefix, and it will consist of your pet job instance ID also. So far, do we have any question, Anurag? Okay. I guess no. Okay, great.
No. Yeah.
So implicitly, Mule will create a persistent queue. So that is one of the reason that when we say batch job is reliable. This is why we say batch job is reliable, because it uses persistent queues. Even if, let's say, some batch processing is happening, and my system goes down, there is some failure. So whenever it comes back or the system get rebooted, it will resume from the same where we left. So here the persistent queues provide reliability to our batch processing.
Okay. So there is an option. There is a question from Mona Chetan.
Mhm.
She's asked if there is a single message fails in between job, what happens?
Okay, so it happens, so it depends on what configuration we are giving to our batch job. So we will discuss about, we do have some parameters which we can configure based upon, do we want to terminate our whole batch job just because of one failure, or do we want to continue irrelevant of as many as failure we are getting. So we can give a particular number in that parameter, which will talk about how many uh, error records will be entertained before the termination of the bed job, and how we can also make it infinite. Like, I don't want to interrupt my bed job just because of the failure of some records. So we can tweak that parameter. We'll just talk about this moving forward.
Okay, and the next question is from Rahul. He's asking where can we configure these things? How many error records are allowed? So I think we can cover this in demo, right, Chetan?
Yes, in demo we'll in depth we'll discuss about each and every parameter and how is responsible for the performance of the whole batch job.
Yeah. Okay.
So after load and dispatch, here comes our second phase, which is the process phase. Here, where our all batch steps are being executed, it is totally asynchronous. So till the point of load and dispatch, everything is in synchronous process, and as soon as we touches the process step, like all the queues are created and all the segregation is done, it will, the process press will be triggered, and everything, like based upon the threads which we are using, everything becomes asynchronous here. So as I mentioned, so when a processing is happening, let's say some records are being processed from batch step 1 and some are going to batch step 2. So those all records, the state of those records are updated in the queue which is being created in the load and dispatch phase. So whatever is happening with the record is maintained in those queues, and we can have some extra queues also there if we are using the aggregator in the batch step. So as you can see here, a queue is being created, and let's say we have 3 batch step, and we have some processor in that batch step. So records are going into the batch step 1. So the batch doesn't need to wait for the previous record to be processed. It will, as soon as it is processed by batch step 1, the record will move to batch step 2. So there is no dependency here when it comes to the batch processing. but the records will go sequential. Like for sure, it will go with batch step 1, then 2, then 3. So our third and the last phase is the on complete phase, where we can get a payload which will be talking about the whole statistics, like how many records are processed, how many failures were there, how many of them are successful, what is the batch job instance ID, and you can extract the statistics of each step also. Like if we dig up more into this payload, we can also get the statistics of each batch step. So let's move forward, because we have a lot more to see in the practical part of batch processing. So as I already mentioned, this is our batch job. We have these batch step, and we can have an aggregator here. So I mentioned the aggregator here. So we will be discussing some real life scenario here also, like how these steps aggregator are useful and what cases. So let's look at the batch job first. When I click on this batch job, I got some parameters here. So if I can give my custom name, like what I want to give a name to this batch job. So here I have a second field which says max field records. By default, the value is 0 for it. Like as soon as this record fails, if a single record fails, the whole batch job will be terminated. And if I say 10 records, so until 10 records are filled, this batch job will run perfectly. But as soon as the 11th record will fill, the whole batch job will be terminated. So by tweaking this max field records parameter, we can tweak like how many failure we want to entertain. And if I don't wanna bother like irrelevant of my failures, I just want to run my batch job from end to end, I can just give a value of -1. So if I give -1, even if I'm giving 1,000 records to the batch job and 999 are failing, it will not stop. It will um, process each and every record irrelevant of the failures. So let me make it -1 as of now. So our third parameter says the scheduling strategy. So Mule provides us two scheduling strategy, which is ordered, sequential, and round robin. So we are familiar with these two scheduling strategies. Ordered sequential is more about processing a record by a record and based upon its created time. And round robin is more about time slicing, or you heard about a terminology which says quantum. Quantum is nothing but a time slice or a time interval given to the each process for processing. So if we feel um, the round robin works best in our case, we can go with the round robin algorithm. Else, ordered sequential is widely used. I can give you a scenario like we can opt for round robin. Let's say if I don't have any interdependency on the previous records which are being processed. So if every records are interdependent, like first insert, I'm getting a record which should be inserted. So I can just go for round robin method. So in that case, round robin will work uh, better. So our fourth parameter is job instance ID. So by default, if you don't give it, it will pick up a correlation ID internally, and you want to give a particular job instance ID. Let's say some other process is calling my batch job, and in the logs, I want to keep track what is the whole process from end to end. So I can give my own job instance ID here also. So the next parameter which comes here is the batch block size. So block size plays a very vital role in the batch processing. So let's say I'm inbounding with 100 records. Let's take it this way. If my payload, I guess font size is visible, Anurag, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay. So if let's say hundreds of records are inbounding to my um, batch job, and I put a batch, sorry, a block size of 25. So what it will do, it will split my whole payload into group or block of 25 each. So I will be getting 25, 25, 25, and 25, four blocks of 25 each. And if it's, let's say, if it will be 101, then I will get something like this. So I'm taking small numbers as a part of understanding, because it will help us out to better understand what all these parameters are and how it will affect the processing. So let's say by default its size is 100, and as of now I'll be using 25. So if I inbound 100 records, it will create four blocks, each of 25 records. So next parameters which we can see here is the max concurrency. Max concurrency is nothing but about the parallelism which you want to achieve by the batch processing. By default, its value is the number of cores your system have into two. Let's say I have 6 core CPU. So by default, it will use 12 as a value. So 12 will be nothing but number of threads which will be dedicated for the processing of all these blocks, not records, the block. Each block will get a single thread. Let's say if I give max concurrency is 4, so I will have 4 threads for these 4 blocks. So first block will get first thread, and second will get second thread. uh, People generally get confused between like 4 threads will be working on the same block, but it's nothing like that. Every block will get its a same single thread if the max concurrency is 4. We'll discuss more about this, like how these two parameters are responsible for, and what will be the expected behavior if we do change these two. And nothing, last we have a target where we want to store the target output, which will come in the on complete phase. So do
Okay.
we have any?
Uh, yeah, Chetan, we have few questions here. We have a question from Kishore. He is asking, do we have any max value for the block size?
uh, Nothing like that. I haven't experienced that, but people don't generally go with that huge size because they have to take care of their system also. Let's say I'm using 8 GB of heap memory, so I have to control the batch block size here also, and the max concurrency based upon my system configuration. But I don't think there is a limit on that, because it depends on your CPU. If you give as 1,000, you can give it.
Yeah, and also like there is available threads that is available is also constant. So it's like, will it give an error if we give block size greater than size of payload?
No, it won't.
So I don't think it will give an error, because like if you are giving a block size more than the payload, then obviously you are saying that just in one batch process all my payload. You don't need to have a block of that. So there will be only one block which will be processed by one thread.
Correct. So I will get only one block which will have 100. That's it.
Yeah. Now the next question we have is from Anjani.
Hmm.
He's asking how block size help in batch programming.
Yeah. Now we will discuss this, like how this helps batch block size. We can use some performance, what I say, performance evaluation tools to see which block size is working best for us. So I will show at the end like how we can examine in our local system. For sure, in at the server end, things goes very much faster because it's a dedicated server. But it gives a rough idea if you're testing it in local, like how the different values for block size or max concurrency will, at what percent it will affect your processing.
Okay. We have a question from Rahul as well. He's asking, so if output, that is payload of one batch step, become the input of next batch step, suppose we define one variable in one of the batch step, can we use it in the next batch step?
No, you cannot call it. Those are, I guess those are segregated threads. Like access, what do you mean? Like creating a variable here and accessing in the batch step 2?
Yeah, so he's asking if suppose I have two batch step one and batch step two, and if I have defined something in batch step one as a variable, can I access that variable in batch step two?
Mm, no, I don't think so. Like it's accessible in this way to the batch step 2.
Okay. Yes. So basically, yeah, I think if you're is so it's similar. The concept that we have, like record variable concept, was there, right? So I think one variable that is created inside step one can be accessed inside step two. That is possible, and I think there is an answer from Yagnesh. He is saying yes, they can be accessed. The scope of variable is throughout the batch scope.
Okay, okay. So because we are using this single thread, so it will be accessible throughout the batch step or for that
Ye-
single record.
ye-
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for enlightening on that part. So that's great. Do we have any more?
No, I don't think I have any more questions.
Okay, great. So let's see. As a part of this small demo, what I'm doing here is I created a mock payload. Like it will have 100 records, which like it will give me a array of.
Mona is saying you have taken a tough topic today.
No, that's great. I will enjoy. Like if I don't know anything, it would be great. Like if you guys are helping me out.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. It's a sharing platform,
Yeah,
guys. So it's not like it's a one topic and one can be like expert in this thing. So obviously, this is a platform where me and everyone can share the knowledge and gain from that.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what I'm doing in this script is I'm creating 100 records, 100 objects, which will have a record ID and a serial number. It's just a simple 100 records, and I'm giving it to this batch job. So here, what I've configured is the block size will be 25 and max concurrency will be 4. So let's see how these two parameters affect the processing. Let me start in debug mode. Okay, so Prathamesh says, can we log the record ID in the batch? Just want to see if it really goes. Okay. Yeah, for sure. I started in the debug mode. We'll see how the records are flowing.
Okay. Meanwhile, I think I missed one question. Yeah, there is. Okay, so there is a question of max concurrency default value is 16. Am I correct?
16.
Yeah, I'll answer that, Chetan. So See, actually, it depends on the vCore of your system and available thread pools. Though everyone now knows now that Mule 4 is, there is a global thread pool that utilizes for all the processing that is happening for a particular flow or application. So whatever is the maximum thread available in that global pool, that will be your value for max concurrency.
Oh, it picked up from the last. I should have clear. I should have cleared the application memory. No worries. Sorry for that, guys. You have to bear with me.
No worries, we have sufficient time.
So I will just go and clear my application data.
Yeah, that is also one of the tricks. Like I have seen when we debug in batch, and sometimes it started automatically, so we are confused. Like, okay, how it started?
So
This that I'm starting, and sometimes we did not clear that application data, and that's how we it started again. Yeah. So thanks for that as well.
yeah, so it eventually um, uh, like what we resulted into a topic like a concept which we're talking about, like the persistent queues. So
Yeah,
I
persistent queue
stopped it
concept.
and it resumed from the same point.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so if we are talking about the scope of the variables, so let's say I'm creating a variable before the batch, and if I want to access it inside it, for sure I will be able to access it, because every batch block, like and how many blocks will be created, they will get their own copy of that
Copy
variable.
of variable.
And if we do any manipulation in the batch step for that block, it won't be reflecting to the original one. Or in the on complete phase, if you try to access it, you will be getting the original which we have created before the batch job.
That's yeah.
So as a performance, from performance point of view, I have seen like a lot of people create variables which contain a large amount of payload, but that is not necessary in the batch job. And they feed it to the batch job, that will result in the degradation of the performance, cause it will copy that same variable to every block, and there is unnecessary load onto the memory, and it will increase the time and space complexity.
Yep.
So always remove the irrelevant variables which is large in size before giving it to the batch. Not sure why it's taking this much of time. Okay, finally it's deployed. So let me trigger it. Okay. So I got the control here. I will say next. So I got array of 100 objects here, and I'm giving it to the batch. So after load and dispatch, you can see in the logs, you will see there's instance IDs created, and it will say 100 records are loaded. This is nothing but a log by the load and dispatch phase. So after the load and dispatch, everything will be in parallel way. So as you know, we have given 4 threads to it. So 4 threads will be used by this processing phase. And I got, as I said, the block size is 25. So I got 4 blocks because my inbound is 100. So I got 4 blocks, or each of 25. So in the first execution, you can see my first record here is the record 26. How did this happen? Because when I said I am getting out of 100, so what my blocks will look like is 26 to 50, 51 to 75, and 76 to 100. So I will get these 4 blocks from record 1 to 25, 26 to 50, 51 to 75, and 76 to 100. So in this execution, you can see I got the 26, which is the first record of the second block. So batch processing doesn't assure for which block will be processed first, but for sure it will say each records in the block will be go in sequential. So the blocks are parallel, but the records are in sequential manner. So this is the very useful statement, and people might get confused between these statements. Like blocks runs in parallel, but the records in each blocks are always sequential. So when if I do next in the second, I'll be getting first record from any other block. So as you can see, I get record 51, which is from the third block. And in the third execution, I got record 1, which is the first element of the first block. And if I do again next, sorry, I would have got 76. So I got 4 threads. Each thread executed each blocks parallelly, and I got the first record. And if I do one more time next, for sure I will be getting the second record of this, which can be 27. Sorry, 52 here, because I said that the blocks are running parallelly. So I got the second record of the third block, which is 52. So in this way, 4 blocks will run parallelly. What would happen if I have given the max concurrency of 2? So if this would happen, if I got 4 blocks, any 2 of them will be picked up to be processed first, because I have only 2 threads here. So as soon as these 2 or any one of them is completed, the next block will be picked up, and so on the last one. So this is how our max concurrency parameter is responsible for tweaking the performance. Let's say I'm running a system which is also running some other applications. So I cannot allocate that much memory or heap size or threads to the particular application which is running the batch. So I would better go for low max concurrency, or and it doesn't bother me like how much time it would take to process all the records. So I can just go with this small number of threads in this case. So generally what Mule suggests is 100 is the best block size for most of the cases, but I have seen for in uh, some of my requirements 200 or 400 is working best for me. So it depends from scenario to scenario, but mostly 100 is recommended or mostly being used. So are we clear on the questions which previously asked by someone, I guess, how these 2 parameters are responsible for the ex- execution?
Yeah, I think We don't have any questions. And if we have, I think Eduardo is actively answering everything. So we don't need to worry about that.
Oh, great. Thanks to thanks.
Okay. Yeah. There is a question. There is a question from Kunal. He's asked, explain max field record value -1 and 0.
Oh, for sure, I can. Let me stop it. So I guess we are clear on this max concurrency, how it helps to achieve the performance. Let me stop it. For that, I have to stop this. Oh, for that, I have a second scenario for sure here. So what I'm doing here is I'm having a web job. I'm having two steps. So generally, we get a requirement like we are not stopping our batch job for each and every records, like we made it infinite, and we want to collect all those records which got filled, and we want to sum it up and send it to a particular system, log it in some database, or send it by mail as a file to the client so they can rework on that. Okay, so in that case, batch steps parameters are very useful. So here we do have three parameters. Name is the same, the name of the batch step which we want to give, and we have two different parameters which says accept expression and accept policy. So it is more about what was the status of the record when it is inbounding to that batch step. So in accept policy, I can see all no failures and only failures. So no failures is more of only success records we will entertain in this batch step. And if it is all, so irrelevant of it is failed or successful previously. When I say previously, for like in the first batch step or when it is inbounding to batch step, I will entertain all those irrelevant of they are failed or successful. And when I say only failures, so only failures is useful in case I want to sum up all the records which got failed in the previous batch step. So for first batch step, everything is already successful because it's the first time the records are inbounding to a batch step. So there's I guess there's no sense of selecting all on this policy. And this the second parameter comes here is the accept expression. So we can write our data weave script here to, if it resolves to true, then it will let that record to come in to that batch step. Let's say I'm filtering the records if payload.id is greater than 0. So let's say I have just a hypothetical scenario. If the record ID can be in negative or positive, so I'm just entering all those records which are having ID more than 0. So if this resolves to true, that record will enter into that batch step. So I have written a small data wave script here in the batch step one. I'm explicitly generating an error, like for all the odd numbers or the records which are having serial number as odd. So I'm generating an error for all those records which are having serial number as odd. And in the batch step second, I am accepting my accept policies only failures. So I'm also only entertaining the failures of the first batch step. So before moving to that, there is a question like when a record's inbound, which of these two gets the precedence? So here, if we say the accept policy gets the precedence, because there is no sense of um, giving evaluating expression if the record got failed in the previous step, right? Let's say I am having some heavy data view transformation or small data view transformation. So it is a CPU intensive process to evaluate the data view expression. So internally, what I believe is like there is no sense of troubling the processor or utilizing the memory if the policy is already so. if the record is already filled in the previous step. So the accept policy gets the precedence here, and if it passes, then the accept expression is evaluated.
Okay. Chetan, there is a request from Rahul. Can you go to transform message once again? He wants to see what you have written in transform
Yeah,
message.
sure.
Yeah, so here just you are taking the odd and even number. So in case of even, you are just passing it, and in case of odd, you are just creating an exception basically.
Correct. Just
Yeah.
marking the just creating a scenario exception, so I can
Yeah.
accumulate here in the batch step 2. So it will better helps us understand the aggregator part. So I guess we are clear on this precedence and these two parameters. So in the second expression step, I am only entertaining the only failure records. So all the odd numbers will inbound here, and I will do some processing here. So as a part of processing, what I'm doing here is, let's not go with the streaming. Let's talk about the aggregator first. So as the name says aggregator, we are collecting. So we are collecting the records rather than going it one by one. I am just collecting and sending it to the end system. So it depends what your end system is. As of now, I am just writing into a file to see what all records are filled. So I am just, what I'm writing here is just the payload in the CSV format. So if I say there might be a batch file here, I'll delete it as of now. So I will give a block aggregator size of, just hold on. I will get aggregator of size of 10. So what does this mean is, let's say I got first odd number, second odd number, third odd number. So until unless I got the 10 records, so this aggregator will be collecting, and as soon as it reaches the point of 10 records, it will trigger whatever processors we have in this aggregator. And other than that, we have here the two checkbox you can go for. First is streaming and preserve MIME type. So streaming and aggregator size both are mutually exclusive. You can either go with streaming, or you can explicitly mention a aggregator size. So we will see how streaming helps. Like, as you all know, the streaming is only useful in case of the processor in case of the processor which we are using in the processing block of the aggregator should also support the streaming. There is no sense of streaming if the end system or the processor which we are using is not supporting streaming. So there are some connectors like database connectors, file connectors, VM connectors which supports streaming. So we can go with streaming enabled if you want to achieve a good or more performant application. So you can see there's one more checkbox which is preserve MIME type. So this is introduced in 7.7, I guess, anypoints 7.7. So what was the previously what the problem is, when we are giving some inbound to the batch job, let's say a JSON array of JSON objects. So as soon as it reaches the aggregator, so inside the aggregator, those are losing, or those all records are losing their MIME type. They are get converted into the binary Java format. So in the aggregator, we have to again do a transformation from that to a JSON if we want to perform any operation which is dependent on that conversion. So they introduced checkbox here which says preserve MIME type. So we need not to take care of that thing anymore. So this will preserve the MIME type of inbound records, whatever you are giving it to it.
Chetan, I think we have few questions here. Uh, there is a question from Dheeraj. He is asking if aggregator fails, suppose SFTP, you are using SFTP, and suppose SFTP connection is down, where the control flows for the next step.
Where the control flows, if you feel like there some error handling needs to be done, you can do it here also. like in the aggregator, you better go with try catch block, do a processor
Mhm.
error handling if you feel this can lead to an error.
Yeah, and like for SFTP, I suppose reconnection is strategies. You can go for reconnection as well.
Yeah, connection
Uh,
level. Mhm.
yeah, we have a question from Mona as well. She's asking, can we retry inside batch to handle connection failures?
Yes, of course. Like connection failures, when you say, let's say I have a request inside my process. So for sure, if you go to the advanced, I guess we have a reconnection strategy. So reconnection strategy is more about when there is a error while establishing a connection to the end system, whatever you have
Mhm.
configured. So you can go with
Mhm.
all these approaches. So that is all
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, and until successful is also there. So if you are suppose
Mhm.
you're looking for a particular access code or something like that, then obviously until successful can be applied on the scope basically. Or if suppose you want to handle the exception and then retry it, then try catch block is there. You can apply the try catch block on the connection of the connector itself as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you when we go with retry block, it is more about irrelevant of any error. Either it can be connection failure or it can be ancestor failure.
Anything. Yeah.
When you
Anything.
go with that reconnection strategy, it is only to the connection establishment.
Connections. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can go ahead.
Okay, so if you wanna see, like, if I give it 0, this will take a little time. And if you wanna see, like, in local where these persistent queues are being created, so if I go to my Nippon Studio installation in plugins, I have to go to uh, my runtime. If I see my runtime here, so in Mule, let's see, this is not my runtime. This one is okay. So in Mule, I can see my app. It's deploying yet. So you can see in this folder, it is creating some temporary files. So in the same folder, it will create some folders which will talk about the queues object store. Okay, it's done. So as you can see, for the batch, I got a single error and the whole batch got terminated. If because I made it 0. And let's see what happens. So I got a folder here which says queue store. So if I see the queue store here, it created some queues, persistent queues, which having a prefix of BSQ and some instance ID is here. So if I see the instance ID for this batch, it is FA2CC something. So I got the same instance ID here, FA2CC. So these are the queues, how it actually looks like. And if I open with Notepad, although it's a binary information, but you can see some segregations here. Here, like this is my first batch, then this is my some record information, second, third batch, and I got 4 batches here and some other information associated with that. So let's go back and see. I will just change the max records to -1, and in the aggregator size is 10, and I'm writing it to a file, and the writing mode is overwrite. Like if a file exists with this name, it will overwrite that file. Okay, so let's see. And desktop, do I have a batch file as of now? Nope. It's not deployed. Let me trigger it once again. I got a file here which says batch.csv, and if I open it, what I got 10 records.
Okay, all the odd ones are here.
Not all the odd. I have given the aggregator size is 10.
Ah, okay. So the last block size. Okay, you haven't used append is equal to true. Or what?
Yeah, I'm overwriting the file here just to see
Uh,
what's the significance of streaming. Because as of
mhm,
now, out of 150 are odd. Okay, but I got only
okay.
10 because
Mhm,
I have given the aggregator size is 10. So with
mhm.
every 10 records, it will aggregating it and it is firing this processor, which is the file
So
write
the
with override.
yeah, so basically the last 10 block or whatever be the last 10 block is basically stored in that file. And you have clicked on preserve MIME type. So basically that's how we are able to see the data set in CSV.
Uh, no,
Okay? No?
yeah, CSV for CSV, I'm doing it explicitly here.
Mm-hmm.
That preserve MIME type is more about what after when the aggregation is done here. So previously,
Mm-hmm.
as I said, what is happening is we are the it is not preserving the MIME type in the aggregator. Let's say you are giving JSON. So
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the aggregator, it will
Mm-hmm.
get converted into Java. So we have to
Ah,
explicitly
okay.
again do a transformation to change it to whatever we are expecting. So they introduce this checkbox to
Yeah, it was not available earlier, right?
no,
It was not available
it, it
in previous
it was
version.
introduced in
Okay.
7.7.
Ah, okay. Okay.
So what I did right now is I removed the size, I enabled the streaming, and let's see how it goes. Just for a note, as I said, our file operations are streaming compatible. So let's see what will be the
Mhm.
expected output. Okay, it's hard deployed. Let me trigger it one again. Once again. Oh, it's initializing. Okay. Okay, it ran successfully. It says the failure count or success count. Let's go to our batch file again. Sorry, you can see I got all the odd numbers here.
Okay.
So how this happened here? Because we are streaming. What does streaming mean here is it created the tunnel one time. It made the connection only once, and as soon
Mm-hmm.
as it getting the records, the failures or aggregate, as soon as it getting the records, it is writing into the file. So this is how streaming helps us to continuously stream the records, and we no need to wait until a particular time threshold is reached. So we can do it
Okay.
with all the connectors which are stream compatible.
Okay. Okay.
So this is how it worked. Like we discussed about batch job parameters, batch step parameters, aggregator parameters, uh, and in the complete phase, what I'm doing here is just nothing. One more thing, if you want to do a performance test of your parameters, like how your current configuration is working, if you don't have any tool, you can just directly go to your Java folder. Like I will go to my Java folder here. It's in JDK bin. If you have heard about JConsole, so I can look over the performance of any process which is happening up here. So let's say this is my Mule runtime. I will connect to it. So this is something which I use to test my different configurations. Let's say I just open it up when I triggered my batch process. So I can see what will be the statistics of my heap memory which is being used, how many threads are being used, and what is the CPU usage with my current configuration. So I can just take some cases, like 2 3 cases with different configuration, and compare all these statistics and come to a conclusion, like which might work best for me in this case. So I can use JConsole if I don't have any other tool. So this is the best tool I think of when I am dealing with any such kind of processes. This gives me a small overview how this is gonna perform on my server. What will be significance of each uh, parameter which I have given or put it in the batch scope, job, step, or aggregator. So that's
Okay. Yeah, there is a question from Datri Shashwata. Can you please explain again how you get connected with JConsole? I think it was part of JDK. So just show the path and
Yeah, sure. So you can just go to the JDK and Java folder, JDK and bin folder. You can just search for JConsole. There is a JConsole exe here. Okay, just open it up. So here you will get the list of all the local processes which are running out here. So based upon the process ID, you can get to know which is your Mule runtime. So you pick that Mule runtime and get connected to it. So it will how much is the heap size allocated to that particular runtime. I can increase it by tweaking the heap size, like explicitly giving it in the wrapper or in the runtime arguments. And you can see,
this will also change when we change that parameter of max concurrency, right?
correct,
If we
correct.
increase your size and okay.
Yes, it
Yeah.
graph goes very different when we tweak these parameters.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good thing. That's a new thing that I have learned today.
So this is all about, like, batch processing is not about loading the huge data. So batch processing is more about how you play with all these parameters. So
Yeah, so basically fine tuning the various parameters that we have in the batch. It's
yes,
all about,
correct.
right?
So that's all
Okay.
from my side on the as a part of the session.
Okay. Yeah. So thanks a lot, Chetan. It was really a wonderful session, and hopefully all our attendees has basically get benefited from this session. And thanks everyone who has participated in the discussion here on the chat. It was really good, informative chat session. That's what I can say. If we move on to the next part of it, then obviously if you have attended the previous meetups, then you know that uh, the most awaited part of it is trivia quiz, and Chetan has few questions for everyone. What prior to that, can I have one photo session? So for the audience who has already I have enabled host mode, can they be just like switch on their video mode so that we can have one photo? Yeah, thanks, Kishore. Ravi sir, we are waiting for you. We are not going to start our photo session without you.
Hey, thanks everyone. Thanks for your kind words.
Thanks, Eduardo, for the help, and always my favorite part, Francis, joining us again for this Thiruvananthapuram meetup. Thanks, Francis. Okay, camera is not working for Ravi sir, so we can go ahead for one photo. Let me click it. Chetan, if you want, you can also capture.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay, then we'll move on to our next part, that is the quiz part, and how we are going to basically start here. You know, there will be one questions pasted by Chetan in the chat, and whoever is the first, what I can say, first three who will give us the right answers, we are going to play what you can say, that wheel of names thing, and whoever names comes first, he will be the winner for that round. So we'll have a three questions lined up. Chetan, now go for it. Put your question in the chat window, and whoever is the first three who has given the correct answers
Mhm.
will use that name to play the wheel of names.
Okay, great.
So here's the first question. Let me, yeah. What are the scheduling strategies supported by batch processing? I need the full name, ordered and round robin, synchronous, round robin and sync, sequential, round robin. Okay. Do we have the first three right answers? I think we have, right?
Eldorado is one. Uh,
The
Tarun,
first three.
Tarun is second, and Pallavi.
Second. Tarun is always there.
We have Tarun Rathor, Eldorado, and Pallavi Sharma.
Pallavi Sharma, okay. Eduardo, Tarun, and Pallavi Sharma.
We can say
I am
like Midhun answered it sequential and round robin, like ordered sequential. It should be correct. Like we are.
yeah. I told in earlier, right? It should be ordered sequential and round robin.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm going with the three names that you have given me. I'm sharing my screen,
Mhm.
and let's see who is the winner. Eduardo, Tarun, and Pallavi. Everyone can see my screen, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay. The winner is Pallavi for the first.
Great. Congrats.
Congratulations, Pallavi. Okay. Can we have uh,
Okay,
second question?
sure. So here comes the second question.
Accept policy or accept expression. Which of these takes the precedence? Oh, okay, 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 okay. Do we have right answers? I think we have enough. Thanks everyone for the
Yeah.
and I think Pallavi, just DM your email to me so that I can raise a request for your training vouchers. Just DM your email. Pallavi Sharma.
So Tarun also answered it. So are you considering him? Like he already answered.
No, no, no. Tarun's name is already there in the first round, so we are not going to consider
Okay.
Tarun's name. I'm so sorry, Tarun. I have seen you have won a lot of vouchers now, so we are going to give it to another chance to another person. So sorry for that.
So we have
Uh,
Rahul,
we have Rahul
Rahul
and
Agarwal. Then we have Vamsi Krishna and Kunal, Kunal Gitter.
Rahul Agrawal, Vamsi Krishna,
Yeah,
Vamsi Krishna, and what's the third name?
Kunal Girdhar.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. Just a second, guys. Okay, so these are the three names that you have given me, right, Chetan?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to rotate it and hopefully. Oh, nice. Congratulations, Kunal.
Great. Congrats, Kunal.
Yep. So we have a last question remaining, right?
Yes. So that's
Just send me your email ID.
okay. Let's go with here comes the last question.
Okay, I think it will be it will be fairly easy one. So whoever.
So we have Kishore,
Yeah, sure.
Edirado,
Okay.
Tarun, and Pallavi. You're already part of
No,
first, so you cannot consider.
no.
But that's good. Like it's a good engagement. Like they are putting up their answers. So
Yeah.
we have Kishore, we have Usha Nistala,
Usha,
and we have Anjani.
Anjani.
Yes, Kishore, Usha, and
Okay.
Anjani.
Sure, Usha and Anjani. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, these are the names, right, Chetan? Kishore, Usha, and Anjani.
Yeah,
Okay. Good luck to everyone. And we have a winner. Congratulations, Usha, for winning the one.
hey, congrats.
Yeah, do send your email ID in the, in the DMs so that I can create, basically I can send a voucher for you. It's a training voucher, guys, so you will be able to attend any of one of your trainings. And okay, so thank you everyone. Thanks for your participation at all. I'm just going to share. I think there is nothing to share as such. But yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks Chetan for your wonderful session. Everyone has uh, a good session here where he can or they can learn.
Yeah, thanks for the
Now,
opportunity. I would say I would be thankful to you guys. I
yeah.
also
So
learned a lot
I'll
of things.
yeah. And also, I want to highlight here is basically, please guys provide your feedback at the end of session. That will be helpful in running this session, and we can pull out the topics from those session. It will be very helpful for us. And also, if you are interested in speaking at these meetups, it will be a good platform for you, because you will get vouchers for the training as well as certification if you are a speaker in these meetups. Thanks everyone, and yeah, have a great weekend. Thanks Chetan.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye.